The world has a funny way of connecting dots we never knew existed. At least that's what Donna Sinclair thought as she scrolled through her phone, ignoring the pulsing beats at the Lakefront Electronic Music Festival. The message from the senior care center was urgent. Mr. Wilson needed a new place to stay by the end of the week, and she was his last hope. What Donna couldn't possibly know was that helping this sweet old man would lead her straight to Chicago's most eligible bachelor, the auto industry titan whose Ferrari she accidentally scratched just that morning. Some would call it fate. She'd soon call it the biggest complication of her life. "Do you look like you giddy, rather be anywhere but here?" A deep voice cut through the music. Donna jumped, nearly spilling her untouched drink on her already stained sundress. She looked up to find a tall man with striking blue eyes and a smile that seemed vaguely familiar. Something about the way his dark hair curled slightly at his temples made her breath catch. "Sorry," she attempted to shout over the music. "Work emergency." He leaned closer, close enough that she caught the scent of his cologne, something expensive and subtle. At a music festival, that dedication. "I volunteer at a senior center," she explained, not sure why she was telling a stranger. One of our residents needs housing urgently, and you're the one solving this while surrounded by—" he gestured broadly at the dancing crowd around them. "All this," Donna shrugged, tucking her phone away. "My roommate, my aunt, dragged me here, said I needed to live a little before I turn 30 next month." His eyes crinkled with amusement. "And how's that going for you?" "About as well as you'd expect for someone whose idea of excitement is finding affordable housing for an 85-year-old man." He laughed then, a rich sound that somehow cut through the electronic beats better than any shout could. "I'm Frank," he said, extending his hand. "Frank Prescott." "Donna Sinclair," she replied, taking his hand. A jolt, probably just static electricity from the dry summer air, passed between them. "Sorry if I am being a buzzkill." "Dance with me," he said suddenly, still holding her hand. "One song, then I'll help you with your housing crisis." She raised an eyebrow. "You're going to help me find housing for a senior citizen you've never met?" "I know Chicago real estate better than most," he said with a confident half smile that suggested he wasn't exaggerating. "One dance is a small price to pay for that knowledge, don't you think?" Before she could respond, the DJ transitioned to a song with a slower, more hypnotic beat, and Frank gently pulled her into the crowd. For someone who looked like he belonged in a boardroom, he moved with surprising ease. Donna, on the other hand, felt stiff and awkward, too conscious of her body and the stain on her dress, a reminder of her disastrous morning. "Relax," Frank said, his lips close to her ear. "No one's watching." "That's statistically improbable in a crowd this size," she quipped, but found herself loosening up despite her protest. As the beat built toward a drop, Frank spun her unexpectedly, catching her with a steady hand when she stumbled. The crowd around them cheered as the music peaked, and for a moment, just one, Donna forgot about Mr. Wilson, forgot about the scratched Ferrari, forgot about her aunt waiting somewhere in the crowd. For just that moment, she was simply a woman dancing with an attractive man on a perfect Chicago summer night. The song ended, and Frank kept his hand at the small of her back as they moved away from the densest part of the crowd. "Now?" he said, his expression shifting to something more serious. "Tell me about this housing situation." Donna blinked, surprised he'd actually meant it. "You were serious?" "I never joke about real estate," he said, then winked. "Well, rarely." She hesitated, but what did she have to lose? "His name is Mr. Wilson. He's been at Lakeview Senior Center for 3 years, but they re-closing for renovations. Most residents have family to go to, but Mr. Wilson, he is alone. The deadline to relocate him is Friday. Budget? Frank asked. All business now. Limited, very limited. He has on a fixed income. The center can provide some assistance, but Frank nodded thoughtfully. I might know a place. It's in my neighborhood, actually. An accessible garden apartment just opened up. The landlord owes me a favor. Your neighborhood? Where is that? Gold Coast, he said simply. Donna's eyes widened. That's not exactly affordable housing. Frank's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at it, frowned slightly, then returned his attention to her. Like I said, the landlord owes me a favor. Give me your number, and I'll text you the details tomorrow. She hesitated, wondering if this was an elaborate way to get her number. But something in his eyes, a sincerity that seemed at odds with his obviously expensive watch and perfectly tailored casual clothes, made her reach for her phone. Donna, there you are. Her Aunt Meredith appeared, slightly breathless and holding 2 fresh drinks. She stopped short when she saw Frank, her eyes widening in recognition. Oh, hello. Frank nodded politely. Donna glanced between them. You two know each other? No, Meredith said, a bit too quickly. I'm interrupting. I'll be over there. She thrust one of the drinks into Donna's hand and disappeared back into the crowd. That was weird, Donna muttered. Frank seemed unfazed. Your aunt seems protective. That is one word for it, Donna said, taking a sip of the fruity concoction Meredith had brought. And she's been my guardian since I was 16, still treats me like I am that age sometimes. And you live with her? Just temporarily, Donna said quickly. I am between apartments. Frank's phone buzzed again, more insistently. This time. I should take this, he said apologetically. But I meant what I said about the apartment. I'll text you. Before she could respond, he leaned in and kissed her cheek, so quickly she almost thought she imagined it. Then he was gone, disappearing into the crowd with the ease of someone used to making entrances and exits on his own terms. Donna stood there, drink in hand, feeling oddly like she did just experience something significant, though she couldn't have explained exactly what. Her phone chimed with a text from an unknown number. Save my contact. I'll call you tomorrow. About Mr. Wilson's new home. Frank. She smiled despite herself, wondering how he'd managed to get her number when she hadn't given it to him. The night suddenly felt less like an obligation and more like the beginning of something unexpected. What she couldn't eat to know was that Frank Prescott was already in his car, driving toward the hospital where his younger sister had just been admitted, his mind divided between family concerns and the intriguing woman who Dee spilled coffee on. His custom Ferrari that morning, and hadn't recognized him at all. Frank Prescott was not a man accustomed to being anonymous. As the CEO of Prescott Motors, his face regularly graced the business section of the Chicago Tribune and the covers of automotive magazines. The family company, which had started with his grandfather's single dealership, had grown into an empire of luxury car manufacturing and sales across North America. Yet somehow, remarkably, Donna Sinclair had no idea who he was. The thought made him smile as he navigated the hospital corridors toward his sister's room. There you are, his brother Max said, looking up from his phone as Frank entered. Max was the youngest of the 3 Prescott siblings at 24, with the same dark hair and blue eyes as Frank, though lacking the lines of responsibility that had begun to etch themselves around Frank's eyes at 34. How is she? Frank asked, his voice low. Max gestured to their sister Chloe, asleep in the hospital bed, looking younger than her 26 years. Better. Asthma attack, pretty bad one. Doc says she needs to be more careful with her inhaler. Frank nodded, dropping into the chair beside Max. I've been telling her that for years. Yeah, well, maybe she'll listen this time. Max returned to his phone, scrolling absently. Where were you anyway? Thought you hated those electronic music things. I do, Frank admitted. But Jackson insisted it would be good publicity to have Prescott Motors sponsor a stage. Wanted me to make an appearance. What Frank didn't mention was that he had been about to leave after the obligatory 15 minutes when he spotted Donna, the woman who spilled coffee all over herself and his car that morning, apologized profusely while completely failing to recognize him, and then hurried away before he could even offer to pay for her dry cleaning. Seeing her again had felt like the universe offering a second chance at what exactly he wasn't sure. "Did you see who has been hanging around Mr. Abernathy again?" Max said, changing the subject. "That social worker. Third time this week." Frank's attention snapped back to his brother. "What social worker?" "The one from that senior center. Keeps bringing him meals and checking his medication." Max shrugged. "He's our neighbor, not our responsibility. I don't get why you so invested in him anyway." Frank frowned. "He's 87 and alone, Max. His children are all on the East Coast, and he was Dad Joyce's best friend." "Yeah, and Dad has been gone for 5 years, Max muttered, then looked immediately contrite. "Sorry. I didn't mean it like that." Frank sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It is fine. Look, can you stay with Chloe? I need to check on Mr. Abernathy." "Sure," Max agreed easily. "Oh, and don't forget Lilo needs his special food. Chloe will freak if her precious hamster doesn't to get the organic mix." Frank rolled his eyes, but nodded. The Syrian hamster was his sister S' pride and joy, a gift from their father shortly before his unexpected death. Sometimes Frank thought Chloe cared more about that rodent than she did about the multi-billion-dollar company that paid for its gourmet food. As he drove home, Frank Again's thoughts drifted back to Donna. There had been something refreshing about her, the way she'd been so earnestly concerned about her elderly charge, the slight awkwardness in her dancing, how she seemed completely unimpressed by him. It was a novel experience for a man whose last 3 dates had Googled his net worth before the appetizers arrived. The irony that she worked at the same senior center that sent social workers to check on Mr. Abernathy wasn't lost on him. Chicago could feel remarkably small sometimes, especially in his circles. His Gold Coast mansion came into view, the lights of the city glittering on Lake Michigan beyond. Most people would see the manicured grounds and imposing facade and think only of the privilege they represented. Few would understand that to Frank, they felt more like a beautiful prison, one he inherited along with the weight of 3 generations of expectations. As he pulled into the circular driveway, he noticed the lights were on in Mr. Abernathy's much more modest home next door. The property had been in the Abernathy family for generations, a holdout against developers and changing times. The contrast between the 2 houses always struck Frank as symbolic, his family's constant expansion versus the Abernathys' stubborn commitment to staying exactly as they were. He parked and walked across the adjoining lawn, knocking gently on his elderly neighbor's door. "Who says there?" came the shaky voice from inside. "It's Frank, Mr. Abernathy." The door opened to reveal a tall but stooped man with a shock of white hair and intelligent eyes that had witnessed nearly 9 decades of history. "Frank, my boy," the old man said warmly. Come in, come in. I was just having my evening tea." Frank followed him into the cluttered but immaculate living room, taking his usual seat in the worn armchair that had been his father's favorite spot during the countless evenings he spent in this very room. "How are you feeling?" Frank asked. "Max mentioned someone from the senior center has been checking on you." Mr. Abernathy waved a dismissive hand. "That boy worries too much. I am fine. The young lady is just doing her job." "Young lady?" Frank asked, trying to sound casual. "What is her name?" "Donna," Mr. Abernathy said, his eyes twinkling. "Lovely girl. Reminds me of your mother, always taking care of everyone else." Frank tried to hide his surprise. "Donna Sinclair," The old man's bushy eyebrows rose. You know her? We met briefly, Frank said, suddenly unsure how to explain their encounters. Mr. Abernathy studied him with the penetrating gaze that had made him a formidable judge before his retirement. She's a good one, Frank. Not impressed by money or status. Hard to find these days. Frank nodded, feeling strangely transparent under his father's old friend, scrutiny. She's trying to find housing for someone from the senior centre, he said. The place is closing for renovations. Yes, poor Walter Wilson, Mr. Abernathy said knowingly. Donna A.S. mentioned him. Brilliant mathematician in his day, taught at Northwestern until his retirement. Frank leaned forward. What else has she told you about him? Mr. Abernathy's eyes twinkled again. Interested in helping, are you, or just interested in the social worker? Frank felt himself flush slightly, which hadn't happened since high school. The housing situation sounds difficult. I thought I might be able to help. Of course, the old man said, not bothering to hide his amusement. Oh, well, Walter needs ground floor accessibility, can't manage stairs anymore, and he doesn't drive, so proximity to public transportation would be ideal. What about here? Frank said suddenly. Your guest house has been empty since Mrs. Hudson moved to Florida. Mr. Abernathy blinked in surprise. My guest house? But it needs work, Frank, the plumbing. I can have it fixed, Frank interrupted. And we could make it accessible, update whatever needs updating. It would be perfect, single level, close to the bus line, and... He hesitated. You might appreciate the company. The older man was quiet for a moment, considering. We
do that for a stranger. For you, Frank said simply. And it seems like the right thing to do. Mr. Abernathy studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly.
Your father would be proud, son. He reached for his teacup with slightly shaky hands, though I suspect your interest isn't entirely altruistic. Frank smiled sheepishly. Let us just say I wouldn't mind having a reason for Donna, Sinclair, to visit the neighborhood regularly. The old judge laughed, a rich sound that filled the room. To be young again. Well, tell your Donna that Walter is welcome here, provided she visits often enough to check on both of us old men. She's just not my Donna, Frank protested mildly. Mr. Abernathy just smiled. Not yet, perhaps, but I've been a judge of character for longer than you've been alive, and I recognize the look in your eyes, the same one your father had when he first met your mother. Frank shook his head, unwilling to examine the implications of that statement too closely. Instead, he pulled out his phone. I should tell her about the guest house. At 11:30 at night? Mr. Abernathy raised an eyebrow. My, you are eager. Frank hesitated, then put his phone away. Tomorrow is soon enough, I suppose. Wise decision? The old man nodded. Now tell me about your sister. Max mentioned she was in the hospital again? As the conversation shifted to family matters, Frank found his thoughts continually returning to Donna. For the first time in years, he felt something like anticipation stirring in his chest. The sense that tomorrow might bring something unexpected and wonderful. What he couldn't know was that across town, Donna was sitting on her aunt's balcony, looking up the name Frank Prescott on her phone, her eyes widening as she realized exactly who she'd been dancing with and whose Ferrari she'd accidentally damaged that morning. Donna stared at her phone in disbelief, the glow illuminating her face in the darkness of the balcony. Frank Prescott. Not just any Frank Prescott, but the Frank Prescott, heir to the Prescott Motors empire and one of Chicago's wealthiest bachelors, the same man whose Ferrari she accidentally baptized with her vanilla latte that morning. Oh my God, she whispered to herself, scrolling through image after image of his perfectly polished corporate headshots and red carpet appearances. No wonder Aunt Meredith recognized him. "Recognized who?" came her aunt's voice as the balcony door slid open. Donna jumped, nearly dropping her phone. "No one, just someone from work." Meredith Sinclair, 52 and impeccably put together even in her silk pajamas, gave her niece a knowing look. "Frank Prescott is hardly no one, dear, and he is certainly not from work, unless your senior center has suddenly started catering to billionaires under 40. Donna sighed. "You knew who he was at the festival." "Of course I did. Everyone in Chicago social circles knows the Prescott family." Meredith sat in the adjacent chair, wrapping herself in a cashmere throw despite the warm summer night. "Your mother would have recognized him instantly." The mention of her mother sent a familiar pang through Donna's chest. 12 years. After the car accident that had taken both her parents, the loss still felt fresh at times. "Well, I didn't recognize him," Donna said, closing the browser tab with Frank S. Forbes' profile. "And now I feel like an idiot for telling him about Mr. Wilson's housing situation." Meredith raised a perfectly shaped eyebrow. "Why, the Prescotts are major philanthropists. His mother sits on half a dozen charitable boards." "Because," Donna explained with exaggerated patience, "I spilled coffee all over his car this morning, apologized, and ran away without offering to pay for damages. Then I unknowingly danced with him at a festival and went on about affordable housing to a man who probably spends more on haircuts than Mr. Wilson's monthly rent budget." To her surprise, Meredith laughed, a genuine musical sound that reminded Donna painfully of her mother. "Oh, darling, that is precisely why he was interested. Do you have any idea how refreshing your honesty must have been? That man has people falling all over themselves to please him everywhere he goes." Donna wasn't convinced. "He offered to help find housing for Mr. Wilson, said he knew a place in his neighborhood." "The Gold Coast?" Meredith looked skeptical. Even with connections, nothing there would be within a senior's fixed income. "Exactly my point. He was probably just—" Donna trailed off as her phone chimed with a text notification. "Good morning. I've found the perfect place for Mr. Wilson. Can you meet me at the address below at 11 a.m. Frank attached was an address that Donna recognized as being in one of Chicago's most exclusive neighborhoods. She showed the text to her aunt, whose eyebrows rose even higher. "Well," Meredith said, a slow smile spreading across her face. "Aren't you going to answer him?" Donna hesitated. What if it asks some kind of joke? Or worse, what if he asks expecting something in return? Meredith's expression softened. "Not every man has ulterior motives, Donna, and from what I know of Frank Prescott, which is admittedly mostly society column gossip, he's one of the good ones. His father certainly was." Donna looked back at the text, torn between hope and skepticism. Mr. Wilson needed housing, and if there was even a chance this could work, I'll meet him, she decided. "But I am bringing Mr. Wilson with me. No point getting his hopes up if it's not suitable." "A sensible compromise," Meredith nodded approvingly. "And what will you wear?" "Aunt Mia?" Donna groaned. "This isn't a date. It is a professional meeting about a client's housing needs. With one of Chicago's most eligible bachelors, who specifically sought you out, twice," her aunt pointed out. "Wear the blue dress. It brings out your eyes." Donna rolled her eyes, but found herself typing a reply to Frank. "I'll be there, bringing Mr. Wilson to see if it's suitable. Thank you for doing this." His response came seconds later. "Looking forward to it. I'll have lunch waiting." "Not a date, huh?" Meredith said, reading over her shoulder. Donna shooed her away. "Go to bed, Aunt Mia. I need to prepare Mr. Wilson for tomorrow." "But wear the blue dress," her aunt called as she retreated inside. Donna leaned back in her chair, looking up at the faint stars visible through Chicago's light pollution. Her life had always been predictable: ordered, college, graduate school, a career in social work that felt like fulfilling her parents' legacy of public service. Spontaneity wasn't tea in her nature. Yet here she was, about to meet a billionaire who'd taken an interest in her after she'd damaged his car. Life had a strange way of connecting dots, indeed. The next morning found Donna and Mr. Wilson, a distinguished-looking gentleman with neatly combed silver hair and intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, in an Uber approaching the Gold Coast address Frank had provided. "This can't be right," Donna muttered as they pulled up to a stately mansion with manicured grounds. "As this is a private residence." "It is the address you gave me, miss," the driver confirmed. Mr. Wilson peered through the window. "My, how grand! Though I'm not sure I could afford even the gardener's shed on my pension." As they hesitated in the car, the front door of the mansion opened, and Frank Prescott emerged, casually dressed in jeans and a blue button-down shirt that somehow managed to look both relaxed and expensive. "We here," Donna said unnecessarily, suddenly very aware that she was, in fact, wearing the blue dress her aunt had suggested. Frank approached as they exited the car, his smile warm. "Donna, good to see you again." His gaze shifted to her companion. "And you must be Professor Wilson. I've heard remarkable things about your work in applied mathematics." Mr. Wilson looked surprised and pleased. "You're familiar with my research?" "My father was on the board at Northwestern," Frank explained. "He always said your papers on statistical modeling were revolutionary. I am Frank Prescott." "A pleasure, young man," Mr. Wilson said, shaking his hand firmly. Donna watched the exchange with slight bewilderment. "Mr. Prescott." "Frank, please." "Frank," she corrected herself. "I think there might be some confusion. We are looking for affordable senior housing, not—" She gestured at the mansion. He smiled. "This is my home, but we're not here to see my place. We're here to see this." He turned and pointed to a smaller but still elegant house next door, or more specifically, the guest house behind it. Donna followed his gaze to where a charming cottage-like structure was, visible at the back of the neighboring property. "And I don't understand," she said slowly. "My neighbor, Judge Abernathy, has agreed to rent his guest house to Mr. Wilson," Frank explained. "It's being renovated for accessibility as we speak." "Judge Robert Abernathy?" Mr. Wilson. His eyes widened. "The constitutional scholar?" Frank nodded. "The very same. He's quite looking forward to meeting you. Apparently, he's been an admirer of your work for decades. He suggested that, given your shared interests, the rent could be adjusted to something suitable for your budget." Donna stared at him, suspicious. And what exactly would Mr. Wilson be expected to do in return? Frank looked genuinely confused. "I do. Nothing, although I believe the judge mentioned something about hoping to find a worthy chess opponent." "Oh, I was Illinois state champion 3 years running," Mr. Wilson said, a spark of excitement in his eyes. "Back in the 80s. "Perfect," Frank smiled. "Shall we go see the place? The judge is waiting to give us a tour." As they walked across the immaculately kept lawn, Donna touched Frank's arm to hold him back slightly, letting Mr. Wilson go ahead with the sprightly older gentleman who had emerged from the main house. "Why are you doing this?" she asked quietly. "Really?" Frank's expression turned serious. "Judge Abernathy was my father's best friend. He'd been alone since his wife died. Having Mr. Wilson nearby, it is good for him." He hesitated. "And honestly, it is good for me, too. I worry about him being alone in that big house." Donna studied his face, looking for any sign of deception. Finding none, she felt something inside her soften. "Thank you," she said simply. "Don T thank me yet," he replied with a small smile. "You haven't seen if Mr. Wilson likes the place." Boom. But it was immediately evident that Mr. Wilson more than liked the guest house, which was already being modified with ramps and grab bars by a construction crew. His eyes lit up at the built-in bookshelves, the sunny kitchen, and most of all, at Judge Abernathy's extensive chess collection displayed in the main house. "This is extraordinary," Mr. Wilson said, his voice thick with emotion. "But surely the rent is something we can discuss over lunch," Judge Abernathy interrupted smoothly. "I understand you agree on a fixed income, but I believe we can arrange something mutually beneficial. I've been quite lonely since my Margaret passed, and I could use a tenant who appreciates good conversation and better chess." Donna watched. The two elderly men, already falling into easy conversation about a Supreme Court case from the 1970s. Something about the scene made her throat tight with emotion, the genuine connection, the perfect solution to what had seemed an insurmountable problem. "They'll be fast friends," Frank said softly, coming to stand beside her. "The judge has been alone too long." "Thank you," Donna said again, meaning it. I can believe you arranged all this overnight." Frank shrugged, a gesture too casual for the significance of what he'd done. "I made a few calls. It wasn't too difficult." "For you, maybe," she said. "For most people, arranging emergency. Accessible housing in one of Chicago's most exclusive neighborhoods overnight would be impossible." He looked slightly uncomfortable with her gratitude. It was the right thing to do. "Still," she insisted, "most people wouldn't go to this much trouble for a stranger." Frank's eyes met hers, startlingly blue and serious. "Maybe I am hoping we won to remain strangers." Before Donna could process this statement, Judge Abernathy called them to join him and Mr. Wilson for lunch on the terrace. The meal was simple but elegant: sandwiches, salad, and fresh fruit with iced tea in crystal glasses. The conversation flowed easily, with Mr. Wilson and the judge discovering more shared interests and connections. Donna mostly listened, occasionally, feeling Frank's gaze on her, but unable to fully interpret what she saw there. "So," Judge Abernathy said finally, turning to Donna, "Frank tells me you a social worker at Lakeview Senior Center." "Yes," she nodded. "For about 5 years now." "Noble profession," the judge nodded. "Your parents must be proud." Donna's smile faltered slightly. "They would be, I think. They passed away when I was 16. "I'm so sorry," the judge said, genuine remorse in his voice. "I didn't mean to bring up painful memories." "It is all right," Donna assured him. "It was a long time ago. My aunt raised me after that. She's been wonderful." "Meredith Sinclair," Frank supplied. "We met briefly last night." The judge's eyebrows rose. "Meredith Sinclair? Of the Chicago Symphony Board." "The very same," Donna confirmed, "though I am surprised you know her." Chicago as a small town in some ways," the judge said cryptically, exchanging a look with Frank that Donna couldn't interpret, especially in certain circles. The rest of the lunch passed pleasantly, and by the end, it was settled. Mr. Wilson would move into the guest house the following week, once the accessibility modifications were complete. The rent was set at an amount he could afford, with the understanding that he would join the judge for regular chess matches and occasional dinners. As they prepared to leave, Mr. Wilson pulled Donna aside. "That young man," he said quietly, nodding toward Frank, who was deep in conversation with Judge Abernathy. "He didn't just happen to know about this place, did he?" Donna hesitated. "I don't think so. Why?" The elderly mathematician smiled knowingly. "Because he hasn't taken his eyes off you all afternoon. And I may be old, but I recognize that particular mathematical equation when I see it." "What equation is that?" Donna asked, genuinely confused. "The one where 2 points are clearly destined to intersect," Mr. Wilson said with a wink. "Calculate the probability of seeing you again as extremely high." Before Donna could respond, Frank approached them. "Ivy called you a car," he said. Though I was hoping, Donna, that perhaps you might stay a while longer there. Just something I'd like to show you, Mr. Wilson chuckled. I believe I can find my way back to the center on my own, my dear. You young people have things to discuss. He shook Frank Eo's hand firmly. Thank you, Mr. Prescott. This old mathematician knows an elegant solution when he sees one. As Mr. Wilson was escorted to the waiting car by Judge Abernathy, Donna turned to Frank with a raised eyebrow. What exactly did you want to show me? The truth, Frank said simply, about this morning. This morning, the Ferrari incident. Donna's face flushed with embarrassment. You knew that? Was me. I'm sorry about your car. I was in a rush and... Donna, Frank interrupted, amusement dancing in his eyes. I didn't arrange all this because you spilled coffee on my car. Then why did you? He took a deep breath. Oh, that because when you bumped into me, spilled your coffee all over both of us, and then ran away without having any idea who I was. It was the most genuine interaction I've had with a woman in years. Donna stared at him, trying to process this unexpected admission. So you, what, hunted me down at a music festival? No, he laughed. That was actually coincidence. I was there for a business obligation. Prescott Motors sponsored one of the stages. Seeing you there felt like, I don't know, like the universe was giving me a second chance. A second chance at what? Donna asked, her heart beating faster. Frank took a step closer. At meeting someone who sees me as a person first, not a bank account or a lust. Name. There was such sincerity in his voice that Donna found herself believing him, despite how improbable the whole situation seemed. So now what? She asked. Now, Frank said with a smile that transformed his entire face, I'd like to officially ask you to dinner. Not as a billionaire helping a social worker with her client, but as a man who very much liked to get to know you better. Donna hesitated only briefly before nodding. I'd like that, she admitted. Although, I'm still going to need more details about this mysterious arrangement you've made with Judge Abernathy. The rent you've set for Mr. Wilson is well below market value for this neighborhood. Frank's smile widened. Always the social worker. How about this? Agree to dinner tonight and I'll answer all your questions about the housing arrangement. That sounds suspiciously like blackmail, Mr. Prescott, Donna said, but she was smiling too. I prefer to think of it as incentive, Ms. Sinclair, he countered. From the main house, Judge Abernathy watched the young couple through the window, a knowing smile on his face. Some connections, he thought, were simply meant to be, even if they started with a spilled coffee and a scratched Ferrari. Donna had always prided herself on being level-headed and practical, even as a teenager when her peers were diving headfirst into whirlwind romances. She had approached relationships with the same methodical care she applied to everything in life. So she couldn't explain why, just 3 weeks after meeting Frank Prescott, she found herself spending nearly every evening in his company, gradually learning the contours of his life like a favorite book she couldn't put down. You were seeing him again tonight? Aunt Meredith asked, leaning against Donna's bedroom doorway with a knowing smile. That is what, 5 nights in a row? 4, Donna corrected, trying on a pair of earrings and then removing them with a frown. We didn't to see each other on Tuesday. Ah, yes, Tuesday, Meredith nodded sagely. The night you moped around the apartment checking your phone every 5 minutes because he had a business dinner. Donna shot her aunt a look. I did not mope. Darling, you made sad eyes at your phone until midnight. That's the textbook definition of moping. Meredith entered the room fully now, surveying the explosion of clothes on Donna's bed. Try the green earrings. They'll go perfectly with that dress. Donna picked up the emerald studs, a gift from her parents on her 16th birthday, just months before their accident. It is not serious, you know. We are just getting to know each other. Mm-hmm, Meredith hummed skeptically. That is why you've been floating around like you were dancing on clouds for 3 weeks. I have not been. You hummed while doing the dishes, Donna. You hate doing dishes. Donna could not help but smile. Her aunt had a point, though she was reluctant to admit it. Something about Frank had breached her carefully constructed defenses with surprising ease. Perhaps it was his genuine interest in her work, or how he listened, really listened when she spoke. Or maybe it was the way he managed to be simultaneously one of the most powerful men in Chicago and also completely down to earth when they were alone together. We're going to his house tonight, Donna said, changing the subject as she put on the emerald earrings. He's cooking dinner. Meredith's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. He cooks. Apparently, his mother insisted all her children learn. Something about not wanting to raise entitled rich kids. Smart woman, Meredith approved. I always liked Catherine Prescott. Donna turned from the mirror. You know his mother? Of, Meredith clarified. I know of her. Chicago, society circles and all that. She's quite the force in philanthropy. Education initiatives mainly. Frank mentioned that, Donna said softly. He said she started a foundation for educational access after his father died. Meredith nodded, her expression softening. The Prescotts have had their share of tragedy, despite all their wealth. Robert Prescott's death was unexpected. Donna knew this much from Frank. His father had died of an aneurysm 5 years ago, leaving Frank at just 29 to take over the massive family business and care for his younger siblings. He has a lot of responsibility, she said, more to herself than to her aunt. Indeed, Meredith agreed, which makes it all the more significant that he's making time for you. Donna, do you think? Before Donna could respond, her phone chimed with a text notification. Looking forward to tonight, and yes, I remembered that you allergic to shellfish. Frank. Despite herself, Donna smiled. It was a small thing, remembering her food allergy after she'd mentioned it once in passing, but it was exactly the kind of thoughtfulness that kept drawing her back to him. You're blushing, Meredith observed, amused. I am not, Donna protested, but she could feel the warmth in her cheeks betraying her. Well, whatever you're not doing, it looks good on you. Meredith kissed her cheek. Have fun tonight. And Donna? She paused at the doorway. Sometimes the most practical decision is allowing yourself some happiness. With those words hanging in the air, her aunt slipped away, leaving Donna to contemplate the growing realization that Frank Prescott was becoming much more than just a convenient solution to Mr. Wilson's housing problem. Several hours later, Donna found herself in Frank's kitchen, perched on a bar stool, watching him move with unexpected confidence between the stove and the countertop. The kitchen, like the rest of his home, was a study in understated luxury, professional-grade appliances and marble countertops that somehow managed to feel homey rather than ostentatious. I still cannot believe you cook, she said, sipping the excellent red wine he poured her. Frank looked up from the pan where he was searing steaks to perfection. No, why not? It is just applied chemistry with delicious results. Applied chemistry, she repeated with a laugh. Is that how they teach cooking at Groton? He supplied. And no, that particular perspective came from my MIT days. The actual cooking skills I learned from our family chef, much to my mother's dismay. She wanted us to learn the basics, not professional techniques. Well, I am not complaining, Donna said, appreciating the mouth-watering aroma filling the kitchen. This smells amazing. Frank's smile was warm as he turned back to the stove. And I figured after 3 weeks of showing you Chicago's finest restaurants, it was time to prove I am not completely dependent on professional chefs. Donna pretended to consider this. So far, all I've seen is that you can source excellent wine and wield a pair of tongs. The jury's still out on your cooking abilities. Tough critic, he laughed. I like that you were not easily impressed. "No, I am impressed by plenty of things," she countered, "just not by wealth or status, which is precisely why I am cooking for you rather than having my personal chef prepare a 7-course meal." Frank's expression grew more serious. "Duh, you have no idea how rare that is, Donna. People who see me, not my bank account." Something in his tone made her heart twist. "Surely you're friends." "My friends from before, sure. The handful who've known me since school. Everyone else," he shrugged. "Let us just say I've learned to be cautious." Donna thought about this as she watched him plate their dinner with a precision that would have impressed even the pickiest food critic. Despite all his privilege, Frank's life had its own complexity and loneliness. The weight of his family name, the responsibility of hundreds of employees depending on him, the constant scrutiny. These weren't the burdens she'd ever had to carry. "Dinner is served," he announced, setting a perfectly plated steak with roasted vegetables and a red wine reduction before her. "Now you can render your verdict." The first bite was revelatory, tender, perfectly seasoned, with layers of flavor that spoke of someone who truly understood cooking as both science and art. "Okay," she admitted after savoring the bite. "And I am officially impressed." Frank's smile was boyish and pleased in a way that made him look years younger. High praise from Donna Sinclair, who is impressed by nothing. "I wouldn't say nothing," she corrected, taking another bite. "Just the things that matter." "And what matters to you, Donna?" he asked, his expression turning thoughtful. "Beyond your work and your clients, I mean." Ooh, the question caught her off guard. What did matter to her? For so long, her identity had been wrapped up in her career in helping others. After her parents' death, she channeled her grief into purpose, determined to make a difference in the world they'd left too soon. "Family," she said finally. "Connection, making a difference, even if it is small. Integrity." She took another sip of wine, feeling vulnerable under his steady gaze. "And what about you?" "Legacy," he answered without hesitation. "But not the way most people think. Not buildings with the family name or more zeros in the bank account. The kind of legacy my father valued. Treating people right, using privilege to help others, building something that matters." "Is that why you helped Mr. Wilson?" she asked softly. Frank considered this. "Partly, but if I am being completely honest, I primarily did it to impress you." Donna laughed, surprised by his candor. "Well, it worked." "I am glad," he said, his eyes holding hers, across the table. "Because I find myself thinking about you far more than is probably reasonable, given how little time we've known each other." The confession hung in the air between them, fraught with possibility. Donna felt her heart quicken, recognizing the crossroads they'd arrived at. "I think about you too," she admitted. "More than is entirely sensible." Frank reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I'm not known for sensible decisions in my personal life. Just ask my financial advisor about the vintage car collection." "I am the opposite," Donna said, not pulling her hand away. "I plan everything. I analyze every angle before I act." "And yet here you are," he pointed out, "having dinner with a man you met because he helped an elderly client after you spilled coffee on his very expensive car." Maybe I am overdue for some spontaneity," she suggested, feeling bold. Frank's smile deepened. "I like this spontaneous Donna." The moment might have evolved into something more if not for the sudden ringing of the doorbell, followed by frantic knocking. Frank frowned, checking his watch. "I'm not expecting anyone." The knocking grew more insistent. "I should check that," he apologized, releasing her hand reluctantly. Donna nodded, watching as he left the dining room. She heard the front door open, followed by a young woman's voice, high and distressed. "Frank, thank God you're home. Lilo is missing, and Ivy looked everywhere, and Max is being completely unhelpful, and—" "Chloe, breathe, Frank." S voice was calm but firm. "What do you mean Lilo is missing?" "Adi, his cage was open when I got home, and I can find him anywhere, and you know it's tiny. And what if he gets outside or gets caught in something, or—" "Chloe." Frank's tone was gentle now. "We'll find him. Come in." Donna stood. As Frank returned to the dining room, accompanied by a distraught young woman who could only be his sister. She had the same striking blue eyes and dark hair, though hers was styled in a trendy bob that framed her heart-shaped face. "I'm so sorry about dinner," Frank said to Donna. "This is my sister Chloe. Chloe, this is Donna." Chloe barely seemed to register Donna's presence, her eyes red from crying. "Lilo's been missing for hours. Ivy looked everywhere." "Lilo is?" Donna asked gently. "My hamster," Chloe explained, her voice breaking. "My Syrian hamster. He was a gift from our dad before he—" She stopped, swallowing hard. "We will find him," Frank assured his sister, putting an arm around her shoulders. "He is probably just hiding somewhere in the house." Donna set her napkin aside. "I can help look," she offered. "More eyes are better, right?" Chloe finally seemed to properly notice Donna, confusion momentarily overriding her distress. "You rip on a date with my brother?" "Yes," Frank answered before Donna could. "And now we are going to help find Lilo." Something shifted in Chloe. Da's expression, a flicker of calculation that made her look suddenly older than her 26 years. "Right. Well, I had already checked my room thoroughly, and the bathrooms, and the kitchen. Let us start with the main living areas and work our way through methodically," Donna suggested, falling into her professional problem-solving mode. "Hamsters usually stay close to walls and look for dark, enclosed spaces. Do you have any cardboard boxes or bookshelves with gaps he could hide in?" Chloe's eyes narrowed slightly. "You know about hamsters?" "I had a few growing up," Donna explained, "and one of my senior center clients had a pair that I helped care for when she was hospitalized." This seemed to thaw Chloe's suspicion slightly. "There are some storage boxes in the hall closet. And he loves to climb, so he could be somewhere high up too." "I'll check upstairs," Frank said decisively. "Chloe, you take the east wing, and Donna, would you mind checking the main floor?" "Of course," Donna agreed, already mentally mapping the most likely hiding spots. As they split up to search, Donna couldn't help noticing the slightly territorial way Chloe had looked at her, or the flash of something that had crossed the younger woman's face when she realized Donna was having dinner with her brother. It wasn't a just concern for her pet that had brought Chloe here tonight, Donna suspected. An hour later, after methodically searching behind furniture, under cabinets, and in every dark corner she could find, Donna was beginning to worry that the little hamster might have found a way outside. She was checking behind the living room curtains for the second time when she heard a faint scratching sound coming from inside the grand piano. Carefully, she lifted the lid, and there, nestled on the strings, was a small, golden-brown hamster, looking up at her with bright black eyes. "Well, hello there," she said softly. "You've caused quite a commotion, Lilo." The hamster twitched his whiskers at her, but didn't to run, apparently comfortable in his musical hiding spot. "Frank?" Donna called, keeping her voice gentle so as not to startle the pet. "Chloe, I found him." Footsteps thundered down the stairs, and seconds later both Prescott's siblings appeared in the doorway. "Oh my God, Lilo!" Chloe rushed forward, relief evident on her face. "Where was he?" "Oh, in the piano," Donna explained, carefully scooping up the little creature and transferring him to Chloe's outstretched hands. "He seems fine. Not even stressed, just curious." Chloe cradled the hamster to her chest, her earlier suspicion of Donna seemingly forgotten in her relief. "Thank you," she said, genuine gratitude in her voice. Dad gave him to me right before. He is special. I understand, Donna said softly. I'm glad we found him. Frank was watching the exchange with a complex expression. Relief, mixed with something that looked almost like pride. I should get him back in his cage, Chloe said, glancing between her brother and Donna. And I am sorry about interrupting your dinner. It is fine, Donna assured her. Would family emergencies take priority? Something flickered in Chloe's eyes at the word family, something guarded and wary. Right. Well, thanks again. She turned to her brother. I'll text when I get home. As Chloe left with her rescued pet, Frank turned to Donna with an apologetic smile. I'm so sorry about that. Our dinner is probably cold by now. It is not a problem, Donna said honestly. I'm glad we found Lilo. He clearly means a lot to her. Frank's expression softened. Dad gave him to her 2 weeks before he died. He has become something of a family mascot. He hesitated. And I should probably explain. Chloe was a bit protective of me. After Dad died, I sort of became the family anchor, and she sometimes thinks that she needs to vet anyone who gets close to you. Donna finished for him. Something like that, he admitted. She means well. Of course she does, Donna said. She loves you. Frank held her gaze for a long moment. Thank you for understanding and for helping find the hamster. Most women would have been annoyed at having their date interrupted by a missing rodent emergency. Donna smiled. Not most women. No, he agreed, stepping closer. Definitely not. The intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. Without overthinking, she closed the distance between them, rising up on her toes as his head lowered to meet hers. The kiss was gentle at first, a question rather than a demand, but deepened as she responded, her hands finding their way to his shoulders. When they finally broke apart, Frank rested his forehead against hers. I've been wanting to do that since the music festival. What took you so long? She murmured. I didn't want to rush you, he said simply, or scare you away. The honesty in his voice touched something in her. This man, who commanded an automotive empire and could have anything or anyone he wanted, had been patient, waiting for her to feel comfortable. I am not easily scared away, Donna told him, her hands still resting on his shoulders. I'm beginning to see that, he smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. It is one of the many things I like about you. The moment was perfect, until Frank's phone rang with a shrill insistence that couldn't be ignored. He sighed, checking the caller ID. It is my brother. I should take this. Max doesn't call unless it is important. Donna nodded, stepping back. Of course. Frank answered the call, his expression shifting from mild annoyance to concern. Slow down, Max. What happened with Mr. Abernathy? He listened intently, his frown deepening. When? Is he all right? Yes, I'll come right away. As he ended the call, his eyes met Donna's apology written across his features. I'm so sorry, but I need to go. Judge Abernathy has had a fall. He is okay, but Max found him on the floor of his study. The paramedics are there now. Of course you should go, Donna said immediately. Do you want me to come with you? Frank hesitated, clearly torn. Are you sure? This isn't exactly how I planned our evening. I am sure, she said, firmly. I work with seniors. Remember, I might be able to help. The relief on his face was palpable. Thank you. Let me grab my keys. Minutes later, they were in Frank's car, an understated but powerful electric sedan rather than the Ferrari she damaged, speeding toward Judge Abernathy's home. Donna noticed how Frank's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, betraying his concern for his elderly neighbor. He is going to be all right, she said gently. Falls are common, especially at his age. I know, Frank acknowledged, but he's been more than a neighbor to us. After Dad died, the judge he helped me figure out how to be what my family needed. I don't know if I could have managed without him. The vulnerability in his admission touched Donna deeply. For all his wealth and power, Frank Prescott was, at his core, a man who cared deeply about the people in his life. As they pulled into Judge Abernathy's driveway, Donna saw an ambulance and a young man pacing on the front lawn, presumably Max, the youngest Prescott sibling. He looked up as they approached, relief evident on his face when he saw Frank. They re-checking. Him out now, Max reported, running a hand through his disheveled dark hair. He says he's fine, but he was on the floor for at least an hour before I found him. What were you doing here? Frank asked, his tone suggesting this was unusual. Max looked slightly defensive. Checking on him like you asked me to. You said to look in on him while you were at dinner. Frank's expression softened. Thank you for doing that. You might have saved his life. Max glanced at Donna curiously. You must be the dinner date. Donna Sinclair, she introduced herself, extending a hand. It is nice to meet you, though I wish it were under better circumstances. Max Prescott, he replied, shaking her hand. And yeah, not exactly how we like to welcome people to the family circle. Before Donna could process the implications of that statement, paramedics emerged from the house with Judge Abernathy on a stretcher. Despite his prone position, the elderly man was clearly alert and somewhat irritated. This is completely unnecessary, he was saying to one of the EMTs. I had a minor fall. I don't need to be hospitalized. Frank immediately went to his side. Judge, what happened? Frank, my boy. The old man's face brightened. Would you please tell these overzealous young people that I am perfectly fine? I lost my balance, reaching for a book. That's all. They are just doing their job, Frank said gently. And after being on the floor for an hour, you should be checked out properly. The judge scowled. I was comfortable enough. I had nearly reached the telephone when Max arrived. Nearly isn't good enough, Frank said firmly. You are going to the hospital to be checked out, and that's final. Donna watched this exchange with interest, noting how the elderly man, a former federal judge accustomed to being the authority in any room, yielded to Frank's insistence. There was clearly deep respect and affection between them. Fine, Judge Abernathy relented, but only if you will check on Walter while I am gone. He'll be worried if he hears the commotion. Mr. Wilson is here? Donna asked suddenly, remembering her client. Moved in 2 days ago, the judge confirmed. Wonderful companion. We've already 3 chess matches in. I am leading, but only just. Frank turned to Donna. Would you mind checking on Mr. Wilson while I go to the hospital with the judge? Max can drive my car back later. Of course, she agreed immediately. I'd be happy to. As the paramedics loaded Judge Abernathy into the ambulance, with Frank climbing in behind them, Donna found herself standing beside Max in the driveway. So, Max said, after an awkward silence, you were the social worker Chloe has been freaking out about. Donna raised an eyebrow. Freaking out? And Max had the grace to look embarrassed. Probably shouldn't have said that, but yeah, she has been concerned. Frank doesn't tee usually. I mean, he dates, but not social workers, Donna supplied, half amused, half wary. Not anyone he actually likes, Max clarified. At least, not for a long time. Before Donna could unpack that statement, they were interrupted by Mr. Wilson appearing at the guest house door, concern evident on his face. Donna, is everything all right? I saw the ambulance. Just a precaution, she assured him, crossing to the guest house. Judge Abernathy had a minor fall. Frank has gone with him to the hospital, but everything is going to be fine. Mr. Wilson nodded, though worry still creased his brow. He's been very kind to me. A remarkable man. He'll be back to challenging you at chess before you know it, Donna said warmly. How are you settling in? Wonderfully, Mr. Wilson brightened. This place is perfect, and Frank has been most attentive. He even helped me arrange my books yesterday. Max, who had followed Donna to the guest house, looked surprised at this information. Frank was here helping you unpack? Oh, yes, Mr. Wilson confirmed. Spent nearly 2 hours shelving my mathematics texts in proper order. Quite knowledgeable. About advanced calculus for a businessman. Max shot Donna a significant look that she couldn't quite interpret. Yeah, that is Frank for you. Always full of surprises. Indeed. As they made sure Mr. Wilson had everything he needed, Donna found herself reflecting on this new glimpse of Frank. Someone who would spend hours helping an elderly mathematician organize books, who rushed to his elderly neighbor S side. Without hesitation, who cooked dinner himself rather than relying on his considerable resources to impress her. The picture emerging was of a man far more complex and caring than his wealthy CEO persona suggested. It was a picture she found increasingly difficult to resist. What she couldn't know was that across town, in a hospital waiting room, Frank was having a similar revelation about her, admiring how she handled the evening chaos with grace and genuine concern, how she put others' needs before her own without hesitation. And as he waited for news about the man who been a surrogate father to him, Frank Prescott was coming to a startling realization. He was falling in love with Donna Sinclair, and falling fast. 2 months after their disrupted dinner, Donna stood in front of the full-length mirror in her bedroom, examining her reflection with uncharacteristic nervousness. The midnight blue gown her aunt had insisted she buy, it as an investment, peace darling, flowed elegantly to the floor, its simple lines somehow managing to make her look both sophisticated and approachable. Tonight was the annual Prescott Foundation Gala, one of Chicago's premier charity events, and Frank had asked her to attend as his date. It would be their first official public appearance together, and Donna couldn't quiet the butterflies in her stomach. You look stunning, Aunt Meredith said from the doorway, her eyes suspiciously bright. Truly, Donna, your mother would be so proud. Do you think it's too much? Donna asked, smoothing the silk nervously. I don't want to look like I'm trying too hard, Meredith laughed softly. Darling, you reattending a black-tie gala with one of Chicago's most eligible bachelors. Too much isn't tea in the vocabulary tonight. She approached, adjusting the simple diamond pendant at Donna's throat, another inheritance from her mother. Besides, that dress was made for you. Frank won to be able to take his eyes off you. The thought made Donna's cheeks flush. Over the past 2 months, their relationship had deepened into something neither of them had anticipated. After the night of interrupted dinner and hamster rescue, they'd fallen into a comfortable rhythm, dinners at his place or hers, quiet evenings watching old movies, long walks along the lakeshore discussing everything from policy reform to their favorite childhood books. Frank had become not just her romantic partner, but a true friend, someone she trusted implicitly. Still, tonight felt different, a step into his public world that thus far they managed to avoid. You re-overthinking again, Meredith observed, reaching for a pair of diamond earrings from her own jewelry box. Wear these, they'll complete the look. Those are your favorites, Donna protested. Precisely why they should accompany you on this important night. Meredith placed them in Donna's palm. Something borrowed, as tradition demands. As Donna put on the earrings, her phone chimed with a text. Frank's car had arrived. Do deep breath, Meredith advised, squeezing her niece's shoulders. Remember, you belong in any room you enter. Donna smiled gratefully. Thank you, Aunt Mia, for everything. Downstairs, Frank waited in the building lobby, devastating. In a perfectly tailored tuxedo, His face lit up when he saw her emerge from the elevator, an expression of such genuine admiration that Donna's nervousness began to melt away. "You are absolutely breathtaking," he said, taking her hands and kissing her cheek. "That color is perfect on you." "You look pretty good yourself," she replied, taking in his tall, elegant figure. "Very James Bond." He laughed, tucking her hand into the crook of his arm. "I'll take that as the highest compliment. Ready for this?" "As I'll ever be," she admitted. "Should we go over the game plan again?" During their 2 months together, Donna had learned that Frank was intensely private about his personal life, preferring to keep their relationship out of the public eye as much as possible. Tonight would change that. "The plan is simple," he said, leading her to the waiting car. "We arrive, we enjoy the evening, we support the Foundation's educational initiatives, and I get to proudly introduce the remarkable woman I am dating to about 300 curious Chicagoans. And your mother," Donna added, "the butterflies. Returning, meeting Catherine Prescott, formidable philanthropist, company board member, and fiercely protective matriarch, had been delayed until tonight due to her extensive travel schedule. And my mother," Frank acknowledged, "who, despite her somewhat intimidating reputation, is going to adore you. How could she not?" The confidence in his voice bolstered Donna's courage. As they settled into the back of the luxury car, Frank took her hand, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her skin. "Thank you for doing this," he said softly. "I know galas aren't exactly your idea of a perfect evening." "I am happy to support the Foundation," she replied honestly. "Education access is important work." "It is," he agreed. "But that is not why I am thanking you. I am thanking you for being willing to step into this part of my life, the public part. I know it comes with complications." Donna understood what he meant. Already in the mere 2 months they'd been dating, she'd had to adjust to certain realities of being involved with someone of Frank's stature. The occasional photographer who recognized him during their dinners out, the curious glances when they attended community events together, the subtly changed dynamics at work when her colleagues realized who she was dating. And I'm not dating your public persona," she reminded him, squeezing his hand. "I'm dating you. The rest is just noise." The warmth in his eyes made her heart skip. "Have I mentioned lately how extraordinary you are?" "Not in the last hour or so," she teased. "A terrible oversight on my part," he murmured, leaning in to kiss her softly. Their moment was interrupted as the car pulled up to the glittering hotel entrance where the gala was being held. Outside, photographers lined the red carpet leading to the doors. "Showtime," Frank said, his public smile sliding into place. "Just be yourself, Donna. That is more than enough." The next minutes passed in a blur of camera flashes and polite smiles. Frank guided her smoothly through the gauntlet, his hand steady at the small of her back, offering minimal comments to the press but never leaving her side. Inside the grand ballroom, hundreds of Chicago's elite mingled beneath crystal chandeliers, the air filled with the gentle hum of conversation and the subtle notes of a string quartet. "Overwhelming, isn't it?" Frank said quietly, noticing her taking it all in. "Even I find these events a bit much sometimes." "It's beautiful," Donna admitted, admiring the elegant decor. "And for a good cause." "Frank!" a voice called, and they turned to see Chloe approaching, stunning in a deep red gown, her arm linked with a tall, distinguished man who appeared to be in his 40s. "There you are. Mother has been looking everywhere for you." "We just arrived," Frank explained, leaning in to kiss his sister's cheek. "Chloe, you remember Donna?" "Of course," Chloe said, her smile polite if not entirely warm. "Lovely to see you again. This is Professor James Harrison, my—" She hesitated. "Fractionally, friend." And department chair of economics at Northwestern, the man supplied, shaking hands with both Frank and Donna. And Chloe is lucky +1 for the evening. Something in the way he looked at Chloe suggested friend was perhaps an understatement, which Frank seemed to notice as well, his eyebrow rising slightly. Donna works in senior social services, Frank said, his hand finding the small of her back again. She has been instrumental in several community initiatives we looking to support through the foundation. It was a smooth pivot, Donna. And noted, framing their relationship in terms that would make sense to the business and philanthropic community present. Professional, respectable, understandable. How interesting, Professor Harrison said, sounding genuinely engaged. My mother works with a similar organization in Boston. The need for comprehensive senior care is only growing with our aging population. As they fell into a surprisingly comfortable conversation about elder care policy, Donna felt Frank relax slightly beside her. This was familiar territory for her, discussing her work, advocating for her clients, connecting with potential allies in the ongoing battle for better resources. They were soon joined by Max, who had surprisingly brought Mr. Wilson as his guest. He mentioned he used to attend these functions regularly during his Northwestern days, Max explained, looking rather pleased with himself. I thought he might enjoy the evening. Mr. Wilson, dapper in a slightly outdated but perfectly maintained tuxedo, beamed at Donna. My dear, you look absolutely radiant. Frank is a fortunate man indeed. Thank you for bringing him, Max, Donna said warmly. How thoughtful. Max shrugged, though he looked gratified by the praise. Judge Abernathy would have come too, but his doctor advised against late nights for another few weeks. How is he recovering? Professor Harrison asked, revealing that he too knew the retired judge. Stubbornly, Frank answered with fond exasperation. He insists on doing more than his doctors recommend, but he is healing well. The conversation flowed easily, and Donna began to relax, finding her footing in this new world. Perhaps sensing this, Frank excused them after a wow. I should introduce you to a few key foundation supporters, he explained as he guided her through the crowd, and we should find my mother before she sends out a search party. Is she really that eager to meet me? Donna asked, the butterflies returning. Frank's expression turned tender. Donna, I haven't seriously introduced a woman to my family in years. Of course, she's eager to meet the person who has made her son happier than he's been in a very long time. The simple honesty of his statement nearly took her breath away. Before she could respond, they were approached by an elegant woman in her early 60s, her dark hair streaked with silver and styled in a sophisticated updo. Her eyes, identical to Frank's striking blue, assessed Donna with keen intelligence. Mother, Frank said, a genuine smile warming his features. Allow me to introduce Donna Sinclair. Donna, this is my mother, Catherine Prescott. Miss Sinclair, Catherine extended her hand, her grip firm and confident. I've heard a great deal about you. All good things, I hope, Donna replied, matching the older woman's direct gaze. Remarkably so, Catherine said, the faintest hint of a smile softening her composed features. My son is not typically so effusive in his praise. Mother, Frank warned, though his tone remained light. Catherine's attention shifted fully to Donna, studying her with undisguised interest. Frank tells me you work in senior social services, a noble calling. Barnet's rewarding work, Donna agreed, finding her footing under the older woman's scrutiny, and increasingly necessary as our population ages and social safety nets fray. Something approving flickered in Catherine's eyes. Indeed, the Foundation has been exploring expanded initiatives in that area. Perhaps you might offer some insights during the planning phase. I'd be happy to, Donna replied, genuine enthusiasm warming her voice. This was familiar ground, her work, her passion. Excellent, Catherine nodded decisively. Join me for lunch next week. Tuesday, perhaps? I find professional insights directly from the field invaluable. Frank looked mildly surprised at the invitation, which Donna suspected wasn't offered lightly. I'd be honored, she said, meaning it. Catherine's smile became more pronounced. Good. Now, if you'll excuse me, the mayor has just arrived and there are certain funding commitments I need to remind him of. She touched Frank's arm lightly. Your father would be proud of the foundation's growth this year, Frank. The scholarship program especially. Something complex, passed over Frank's features, pride, sadness, gratitude. Thank you, Mother. And as Catherine glided away toward the city as highest elected official, Frank exhaled softly. Well, that was unexpected. The lunch invitation, Donna asked. The approval, he clarified. My mother doesn't waste time on people she doesn't find worthwhile. That invitation wasn't to just professional courtesy. It was her way of saying she likes you. Donna felt a weight she hadn't fully acknowledged lifting from her shoulders. She's quite impressive. Terrifying, some would say, Frank smiled. But yes, impressive is accurate. After Dad died, she could have retreated into grief. Instead, she channeled it into expanding the foundation's work. It's become her primary focus. The evening continued in a whirl of introductions and conversations. Donna met board members, business associates, and family friends, all regarding her with varying degrees of curiosity and assessment. Throughout it all, Frank remained at her side, his quiet pride in her evident in every introduction. During a brief lull, he led her to a quiet corner near the terrace doors. How are you holding up? Better than I expected, she admitted. And though I've lost count of how many people have looked at me like I'm a fascinating new species they've discovered. Frank laughed softly. You are rather a departure from my usual public appearances. Meaning I am not a supermodel. Or socialite? She teased. Meaning you real, he corrected, his expression turning serious. And they can all see how much that matters to me. Before she could respond, a sharp voice cut through their moment. Frank, darling, I've been looking everywhere for you. They turned to see a stunning blonde approaching, her couture gown and flawless makeup suggesting both wealth and careful preparation. Something in Frank's posture changed, a subtle stiffening that Donna felt rather than saw. Vanessa, he acknowledged, his tone perfectly polite but distinctly cooler than it had been moments before. Oh, I didn't realize you were attending tonight. The Morrison Foundation always supports educational causes, the woman said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes as they flicked dismissively over Donna before returning to Frank. Your Mother A.S. assistant added me to the guest list ages ago. How thoughtful, Frank said neutrally. Vanessa Morrison, this is Donna Sinclair. Donna, Vanessa is an old friend. The word friend carried a weight that suggested a more complex history. Vanessa extended a manicured hand, her grip deliberately limp. Charmed, she said, in a tone that suggested precisely the opposite. And what is it that you do, Donna? I am a social worker, Donna replied evenly, refusing to be intimidated. I specialize in senior care coordination. Vanessa's perfectly sculpted eyebrows rose. How community-minded. And how did you and Frank meet? Charity event? A coffee shop, actually, Frank interjected, a hint of amusement in his voice. Donna made quite an impression. I spilled my latte all over his Ferrari, Donna clarified, deciding transparency was the best approach, and then ran away without offering to pay for the cleaning. Vanessa's carefully composed expression faltered momentarily, clearly not expecting such candor. How unusual. It certainly caught my attention, Frank agreed, his hand finding the small of Donna S., back in a gesture that was both protective and possessive. Vanessa S. eyes narrowed slightly at the gesture. Well, certainly. Refreshing to see you branching out socially, Frank. After all, we all wondered if you'd ever recover from our mutual disappointment. The calculated barb hung in the air for a moment. Donna felt Frank tense beside her but remained silent, letting him navigate what was clearly a deliberate provocation. Ancient history, Vanessa, he said lightly. One I am genuinely grateful for in retrospect. Something like irritation flashed across Vanessa's perfect features before she masked it with a brittle smile. Well, I should circulate. Daddy S. considering a significant donation to the scholarship program. She touched Frank's arm briefly. We should catch up soon, for old times' sake. As she glided away, Donna raised an eyebrow at Frank. "See, ex-girlfriend, ex-fiancée," he corrected, looking slightly embarrassed. "Very briefly, 3 years ago. We called it off before anything was officially announced." "I'm guessing that was your decision, not hers," Donna observed. Frank sighed. "That obvious? Let us just say she doesn't yet seem like someone who enjoys being left behind," Donna said diplomatically. "She's not," Frank agreed. "The Morrison family doesn't like being denied anything they want. But the engagement was a business arrangement more than a relationship, something both our mothers had engineered. When I realized that, I couldn't go through with it." Donna processed this new information, trying to imagine Frank in such a calculated match. And Chiquis is still interested. It wasn't a question, but Frank answered anyway. "In the position, perhaps. In me, I doubt it. Vanessa likes winning more than she likes any particular prize." "And am I a prize?" Donna asked, keeping her tone light, despite the genuine question beneath. Frank turned to face her fully, his expression serious. "You are the furthest thing from a trophy I could imagine, Donna Sinclair. You're a partner, a challenge, a reality check, and the best thing that has happened to me in longer than I care to admit." The naked honesty in his voice touched something deep in Donna's heart. Before she could respond, the sound of silverware tapping against crystal called the room to attention. Catherine Prescott had taken the stage, elegant and commanding, as she welcomed the gathered guests and began to outline the foundation's achievements over the past year. As Frank was called up to join his mother and present the first scholarship awards of the evening, Donna found herself standing beside Max, who had reappeared with a champagne flute for each of them. "You handled Vanessa like a pro," he commented, nodding toward where the blonde was now holding court with a group of society friends. "She's been circling like a shark since she heard Frank was bringing someone tonight." "Former almost sister-in-law?" Donna inquired, taking a sip of champagne. Max snorted. "God, that was a close call. Can you imagine family holidays with her forever?" He shuddered dramatically. "Chloe and I nearly staged an intervention when they got engaged. Thankfully, Frank came to his senses." "He said it was a business arrangement," Donna said carefully. "For the Morrisons, definitely," Max affirmed. "They wanted the Prescott name and connections. For Frank..." He hesitated. "Indeed, after Dad died, I think Frank felt this crushing responsibility to do everything right for the family, including making a suitable match. Mother never pushed for it explicitly, but society expectations are a powerful thing in our circles." Donna watched as Frank presented a scholarship to a beaming young woman on stage, his genuine pride in the Foundation's work evident in his expression and words. "He is different with you," Max continued, following her gaze. "More himself. Like he was before all the responsibility landed on his shoulders. Chloe S. noticed it too, though she did die before admitting it. I thought Chloe wasn't my biggest fan," Donna admitted. Max grinned. "She is protective. and suspicious, but she is coming around. The hamster rescue earned you major points. As the awards presentation concluded to enthusiastic applause, Donna watched Frank step down from the stage, immediately surrounded by well-wishers and supporters. He moved through the crowd with practiced ease, but his eyes sought her out, lighting up when he found her watching him. "He loves you, you know," Max said quietly beside her. "I haven't seen him look at anyone like that since, well, ever, actually." The simple statement sent a jolt through Donna's system. They hadn't said those words to each other yet, though she, felt the truth of her own feelings growing steadily over the past weeks. "Don tell him I said that," Max added. Hastily, he'd kill me for overstepping. "Your secret is safe with me," Donna assured him, her eyes still on Frank as he made his way back toward them. The rest of the evening passed in a pleasant blur. Donna danced with Frank beneath the crystal chandeliers, chatted with foundation board members who seemed genuinely interested in her professional insights, and even shared a surprisingly warm conversation with Catherine Prescott about the challenges of women balancing career and personal fulfillment. By the time they slipped away just after midnight, Donna felt as though she passed some unspoken test, not with flying colors perhaps, but solidly enough to be accepted into this new world that was such an intrinsic part of Frank's life. In the car heading back to her apartment, Frank loosened his bow tie with a sigh of relief. "Oh, you were amazing tonight," he said, taking her hand. Everyone was impressed. "Even your mother?" Donna asked, kicking off her heels with her own sigh of relief. "Especially my mother," Frank confirmed. "The lunch invitation wasn't just politeness. She doesn't offer her time lightly." Donna leaned her head against his shoulder, suddenly tired but content. "It wasn't as intimidating as I expected." "You were not easily intimidated," he pointed out. "It is one of the things I love about you." The word hung in the air between them, deliberately placed but not called attention to. Donna felt her heart quicken as she lifted her head to meet his gaze. "One of the things?" she asked softly. Frank's expression was open, vulnerable in a way few people ever got to see. "One of many," he admitted. "I've been trying to find the right moment to tell you, but I love you, Donna. Probably since the day you spilled coffee on my car and didn't have a clue who I was." The simple declaration, delivered without fanfare or dramatic setting, felt perfectly right. This was them, honest, straightforward, finding the extraordinary in seemingly ordinary moments. "I love you too," she replied, the words coming easily now that they'd been invited. "Even though your life is considerably more complicated than I initially realized," he laughed softly, pulling her closer. "Is that going to be a problem?" Donna thought about the evening, the scrutiny, the social navigation, the glimpse of the public persona Frank had to maintain. She thought about Vanessa, about the expectations of his world, about the inevitable complications that would come with loving someone whose name appeared regularly in the business pages. Then she thought about the man beside her, who cooked dinner himself instead of hiring a chef, who spent hours helping an elderly mathematician organize books, who looked at her like she was the most remarkable person he had ever met. Not a problem, she decided. Just an adjustment. Your world is part of who you are, and I love who you are. The relief and joy that spread across his features told her everything she needed to know about the importance of her acceptance. As the car pulled up to her building, Frank leaned in to kiss her, a kiss that held promise, certainty, and a future neither of them had anticipated when a spilled coffee had brought them together. "Stay," she whispered against his lips as they broke apart. "Tonight." His eyes darkened with desire, but he hesitated. "Are you sure? We don't have to rush anything." Frank," Donna said with affectionate exasperation. "It has been 2 months. That is practically glacial by modern dating standards, I'm sure." His smile was both tender and heated as he instructed the driver to wait before following her into the building. In the elevator, he pulled her close again, his kiss more urgent now that privacy allowed. "I should warn you," he murmured against her neck. "Once I stay, I might not want to leave." I'm counting on it," she replied, leading him down the hallway to her apartment. Later, as they lay tangled together in her bed, the city lights creating patterns across the ceiling, Donna traced lazy circles on Frank's chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath her fingertips. "What are you thinking?" he asked, his voice low and contented in the darkness. She smiled against his skin. "That life has a funny way of connecting dots we never knew existed." He chuckled, the sound rumbling pleasantly under her ear. "Full circle to our first conversation." She agreed. "Though I doubt either of us could have predicted this outcome when I was apologizing for ruining your custom-detailed paint job." "I knew," he said, surprising her. "Not consciously, perhaps. But something told me you were significant from that first moment. That's why I was so determined to find you again." Donna propped herself up on an elbow to see his face in the dim light. "Really? Love at first coffee spill?" "Something like that," he admitted, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "A recognition, maybe. Like finding a piece of a puzzle you didn't know was missing." And the sentiment, unexpectedly poetic from her usually pragmatic boyfriend, touched her deeply. "That's beautiful. You make me better," he said simply, "happier, more myself." As she settled back against his chest, Donna reflected on the unlikely path that had brought them together. A spilled coffee, an elderly client's housing crisis, a chance encounter at a music festival. Seemingly random dots that, when connected, created a picture more beautiful than either could have imagined. Outside her window, Chicago glittered with possibility, while inside, in the circle of Frank's arms, Donna found something she hadn't realized she had been missing, a sense of coming home. Epilogue, 1 year later. The guest house garden was in full bloom. Roses, climbing trellises and hydrangeas creating bursts of color against the neatly trimmed hedges. Under the shade of an ancient oak tree, Judge Abernathy and Mr. Wilson were engaged in their daily chess battle, though both were frequently distracted by the small, golden-haired toddler who wobbled between their chairs, clutching a stuffed hamster that bore a striking resemblance to the aging but still spirited Lilo. "Your move, Walter," the judge prompted, smiling indulgently as the child patted his knee. "I am considering my options, Robert," Mr. Wilson replied, though his attention was more on the child than the board. "Emily grows more adventurous by the day." "Takes after her mother," the judge observed, reaching down to steady the little girl as she clutched his pant leg. "Though I see Frank's determination in those eyes." On the main house's terrace, Donna watched the scene with contentment, her hand resting on the gentle swell of her abdomen where their second child was just beginning to make its presence known. At 4 months pregnant, she was finally past the exhausting first trimester and feeling more like herself again. "They completely besotted with her," Catherine Prescott commented, joining Donna at the railing. "I've never seen 2 grown men so thoroughly wrapped around such tiny fingers." Donna smiled. "Emily's lucky to have such devoted great-grandfathers in her life." Though not related by blood, both elderly men had embraced their honorary roles with enthusiasm when Max and his unexpected bride, a pediatric nurse he'd met during one of Chloe's hospital visits, had adopted Emily 8 months ago. The surprise match had shocked Chicago society almost as much as the speed with which the formerly commitment-phobic youngest Prescott had embraced fatherhood. "Indeed," Catherine agreed, her expression softening as she watched her granddaughter play. "As this little one will be," she added, nodding toward Donna's stomach. "We're planning to tell everyone at dinner tonight," Donna said. "But I should have known you'd notice." "A mother always knows," Catherine said cryptically. "Frank is thrilled, I assume." "Ecstatic," Donna confirmed, "and terrified. Apparently being an uncle and a stepfather doesn't fully prepare you for impending biological fatherhood." Catherine laughed softly. "No, it doesn't, T. But Frank has always risen to challenges magnificently. It is the Prescott way." If the past year had brought changes Donna could never have anticipated when she'd agreed to become Mrs. Frank Prescott 6 months after the foundation gala. Their wedding had been intimate by Prescott standards. Only 200 guests instead of the 1,000 Catherine had initially proposed, held in the garden of what was now their home. After honeymooning in Italy, they'd returned to find Judge Abernathy stubbornly refusing the in-home care his doctors recommended, following a minor heart procedure. The solution had been obvious to both of them. They would move into the judge's home, allowing him his independence while ensuring he had support when needed. The arrangement had raised eyebrows in some circles, a Prescott heir living in his neighbor's home rather than his family mansion, but had proved perfect for all involved. Frank and Donna had the space and privacy of the main house's east wing, while the judge maintained his beloved study and bedroom in the west wing. The mansion next door had been converted into the Foundation's headquarters, fulfilling a vision Frank and his mother had been developing for years. "There you are," Frank's voice called as he emerged onto the terrace, handsome in casual weekend clothes, a far cry from the corporate suits he still wore for business, but shed immediately upon coming home. "Max just called. They were running late. Emily refused her nap and had a complete meltdown at the store." "The joys of toddlerhood," Donna smiled sympathetically. "I told him not to schedule grocery shopping during nap time." "He's learning," Frank said, coming to stand beside her, his hand automatically finding its way to the small of her back. "Chloe and James are on their way, though, and they bringing news, apparently." Catherine raised an eyebrow. "Engagement news, perhaps. It has been nearly a year." "Mother," Frank warned, and no pressuring them. "I am simply speculating," Catherine defended herself. "They were clearly well-suited." Donna exchanged an amused glance with her husband. Catherine's matchmaking instincts had been remarkably accurate with Max and his wife Sarah, and she'd fully embraced Donna into the family despite the initial unexpectedness of the match. Now, her sights were firmly set on seeing Chloe and her professor formalize their relationship. "I should check on dinner," Catherine announced, giving them a moment alone. "Manuel is trying a new seasoning blend on the lamb." As she disappeared into the house, Frank pulled Donna closer, resting his chin on top of her head. "How are you feeling?" "Better," she assured him. "The morning sickness seems to be tapering off." Good," he murmured, his hand splaying protectively over her stomach. "I hate seeing you unwell." "It is worth it," she said simply. They stood in comfortable silence, watching Emily abandon the chess players to toddle toward a butterfly, her delighted squeals carrying across the garden. "I never imagined this," Frank admitted quietly. "Any of it. Not you, not living here, not impending fatherhood. None of it was in my carefully plotted life plan." "Disappointed?" Donna teased, knowing the answer. "Disgrateful," he corrected, turning her gently to face him. "Every day, I wake up grateful that you spilled coffee on my Ferrari." "The universe works in mysterious ways," she agreed, rising up on her toes to kiss him softly. "Prescott. Sinclair, stop canoodling and come help me carry these plants." And Mr. Wilson's voice interrupted them as the mathematician waved from beneath the oak tree. "Emily wants to show you the butterfly garden we planning." Frank laughed, taking Donna's hand as they crossed the lawn toward the waiting trio. "Demanding, aren't they, our adopted grandfathers?" "They family," Donna said simply. "Coffee stains, chance meetings, elderly housing crises, it all led here. to family. As Emily ran to meet them, arms outstretched and face alight with unconditional love, Donna felt the familiar warmth of certainty settle in her chest. This beautiful, unexpected life, with its blend of privilege and purpose, with its extended family created more by love than by blood, was exactly where she was meant to be. Sometimes, she reflected as Frank scooped up his niece and spun her around to peals of laughter, the most perfect homes were the ones you never knew you were looking for until you found them. The end.